Hello ladies and gentlemen, today I want to show you another blindfolded speedrun of mine. This time it is Deltarune with any percent blindfolded as category. I wanted to provide a commentary over this since many people don't know this run and or this game, and it is a fantastic speed game in my opinion, so I want to talk a bit about what I'm actually doing here, the strats, what the goal is of this speedrun, etc. Now, right in the beginning, we have a character creation menu, which is actually very tricky blindfolded. First of all, we can just select whatever options we want. It doesn't really matter. But then in the naming screen here, it's very important because you can get easily soft-locked blindfolded if you get cycled in the menu. So you need to very precisely select a certain name, which is like just some random letters, and then go to OK. If you do, it is very easy to get lost in the menu there, so it's a very important part of the run actually. Now, Deltarune is a not very typical RPG, I would say. You cannot really level up or really do many other things in normal RPGs, but it has the same elements like the fighting system, etc. First of all, here we go back to the bed, we wake up and go back to the bed. That skips the entire first sequence. That is why the category is called New Game Plus actually, because in a true reset new game you would need to go to school and watch some cutscenes, but it's literally downtime. There is not a single thing you do in this section, so New Game Plus is the most run category and it skips this first cutscenes basically. Here is the first underworld area. And we have picked up an item in the very beginning which allows us to automatically mash text as fast as possible. It's called Wrist Protector, and it's literally what it's called. It protects your wrists from mashing constantly because there's lots of mashing in this game. It is still very important to mash fast even with the Wrist Protector because, yeah, it is still faster if you do it. But as you can see, I'm going here through the levels, solving some puzzles, and you might wonder, how can I locate myself here? In this particular section, I use Chris is the main character in this game, Chris's footsteps, because they have a very distinct sound, and there is not yet any BGM or anything that I could count. So I use the footsteps here to count, like for example, go 4 to the right, 5 up, 5 right, etc. Now comes, now we introduce some new characters, but also there is this random sequence here. You can see these spades falling down from the sky and they can hit you and damage you, but it has so far in all my hundreds and hundreds of attempts happened that I died here. I think it's kind of impossible to die if you just keep holding right, but yeah, we are introduced to Susie, the second character of our party, which is very strong in this speedrun and very important, especially in visual, but more to that later when we actually go to the fighting parts, I would say. Now comes the first mini boss and the first fighting sequence. You can also see these tiny stars everywhere. These are the save points. And save points are very good in Blindfolded because, yeah, what they do is we can save, and if we mess up or get lost, we can quickly reload. It takes 0 time to reload a file in this game, which is very good. You can see here the text being mashed super fast with the Wrist Protector plus myself mashing. You can see it on the input display. I'm constantly mashing those buttons. And here we are introduced to Lancer, the first boss. Lancer, you can see also the fighting mechanics here. Attacks of enemies are always dodgeable through this 2D minigame. And attacks of yourself you can time with this bar. And as you can see here, I dodged perfectly. Most of the enemies' attacks in this game are random. So for example here, I don't know if he is up or down or not, so all the strats are based off of the average of what is most likely where the enemy will go. And here we introduce the third character that is important to the story, called Ralsei. And Ralsei is the MVP in blindfolded speedrunning. Without Ralsei it would be impossible probably this whole run. But also now the beautiful BGM starts to kick in and we can finally stop counting footsteps, but actually the BGM. Because if this game is one thing, then it is, as you might have guessed it, beat counting. This entire run, literally the entire run, is beat counted. There is not a single section that I don't count. And here we come up to the very first enemy skip, which is very important. Look at this. We go to the right, count the beat, boom, dodge down, boom, dodge up, and the enemy has no chance to even approach us. This is a common theme in this game in terms of skips, because this is the major time save that we can get if we avoid fights. Here, another very specific setup. We go left, take boost, and then perfectly dodge this enemy. This one is very tricky, even visual runners have some troubles with this. Here is a cake, and you can pick up an extra item, another enemy skip by the way, perfectly executed. And a little puzzle here. These puzzles are very tricky. You need to, as you can see, there are these things popping up on the ground and you need to hit them with like both characters, but yeah, very clean setups, very clean setups. So, what I wanted to say is, oh, actually no, there's one more fight coming up right now. It isn't that important. So, there's lots going on, as you can see. It's a very fast-paced game. This fight here is scripted, and this time we actually don't fight, but we spare them. Because this game, Deltarune, as well as Undertale from the same maker, Toby Fox, have this mechanic that you can complete the game like 100% without killing a single enemy. And we make use of that in the speedrun, because sometimes it's faster to spare the enemy than to fight them. And this will be especially seen later on in some boss fights also, because we don't have any good weapons or anything in the speedrun, and we kind of use the spare option very often to get just speed. Now here's Susie, the third character finally joins our party at this point, and a very, very tricky puzzle is coming up, which is called Field Puzzle number 2. This one, blindfolded, is hell. Yeah, I missed it here first try. It is totally normal if you miss it a few times. It is one of the hardest movement sections in the game, I would say. It's super tricky because it's so precise. You have to maneuver 3 characters at once here. Oh, you could see that was very close. You have to maneuver 3 characters at once and somehow still hit all these platforms on the ground. So, very tricky stuff. Now we got it, perfect. And that opens the door, and this super, super difficult boss here. Can we get him? Oh, and he's dead. Yeah, this is a meme boss. It just one hit mashed. Also very important to note is that you can get critical hits if you perfectly stop the bar at the very end. There is like a tiny square. And it is in fact possible to blindfolded hit critical hits. It's beat countable. And we will make use of that later on, because there are some fights where a crit can cut out 1 turn if you get like multiple crits. So we'll see it here, I think. Boom! You saw I got a crit, and because of that we killed 2 enemies in 1 turn instead of 1. So very, very cool stuff that this is possible. It's very precise, but it is doable, so very cool. The second enemy or third enemy here we just mash, because it would not affect the turn count anymore. It's faster to just get the attacks done as fast as possible. Now the box puzzle. Box puzzle, you need to take these 2 boxes here onto the switches, which is very easy finally, because this is one of the only times in the entire game where we have audio cues for like interacting with something, as you can hear. The boxes make a distinct sound. And this is the thing about this game. I said it's entirely beat counted, and it is true. Like, close to nothing makes sounds in this game, which makes it incredibly hard to run. Like, there is no auditable feedback. Also, one of the hardest enemy skips right here. We lure the enemy with like a very specific position, get them stuck in the corner, and dodge them perfectly. They're very nice. We got all the enemy skips in this run. Now, checkers. Checkers is very interesting. And you can see this white stuff on the ground. That would teleport you back to the beginning of the stage. But as you could see, we just like perfectly dodged it, because if you enter checkers, it is always the same timing for like the same patterns for the floor to get white or not. So what we can do is reload the area. That's why I went left and right again. We reload the area so we always know where exactly the teleporter will be. And then based off that, we can beat count and perfectly tap up. Here the same concept, look at this. boom, dodged, boom, dodged, boom, dodged. Perfectly executed. So it's really impressive to see if you don't know much about like beat counting, etc. Because it just looks like you know when these things happen, but actually it's just reloading a global timer on level entry plus beat counting from the entry. So it's very cleverly solved, I think. Now here we come to an actual boss fight for once that we will not... oh, there's more white patterns. Look at this. Boom. Last one, perfectly dodged. And before the next boss fight comes still one fight, which we have multiple options to fight in, but it's rather not very much to talk about. We just spare these enemies here, because it's fast. You can spare always one per turn, and you cannot operate Susie at this point. Susie is just attacking whatever she wants. So I spare with Chris and Turalsei the first and third enemy, and then the last one we spare. Here I messed up in my menuing, that's why I didn't spare him. But yeah, it's not a big time loss. It's like it saves a second maybe. Anyways, now comes the next boss. Before that we save. Save points also have the very convenient feature that they heal us to full health. So now comes an actual boss, which we need to interact with 4 times. There is an attack button and an interact button, and the interact button is basically what you need to spare the enemy. So what we're gonna do here is, you would see the boss has 4 attacks, or four turns, and they are always in the same pattern. That's very good because we can anticipate what will happen. The first attack is always this jumping attack here, as you can see. And you can dodge that perfectly, it's not random. We can dodge that. The second attack, on the other hand, is random because he shoots these stars from his leg. And we can kind of dodge it, but kind of not. Third attack is nothing, he just heals himself. But that doesn't matter because we spare him, we don't want to kill him. Then we do the fourth attack and he jumps one more time. With like a stronger animation, this time with stars, but also these stars are kind of dodgeable. And then that's the boss fight. We killed the boss without actually killing him, but sparing. That's what I said with gaining speed through sparing. So, very decent checkers. We lost a few seconds due to mismenuing, etc. But the next area will be the forest. Forest is it's the longest area and also one of the more difficult ones, I would say. Forest has a lot of beat counted movement and cycles to catch, etc. So you can see right here, there are like enemies appearing from the woods. So we manipulate these enemy skips with, there's actually a run button and a slow walk. If you don't hold the run button, you slow walk, kind of like in Pokemon with the running shoes. And of course we have the running shoes constantly pressed. But here, as you can see, like I slowed down at some points just to skip enemies perfectly. So it's a very like, it feels like playing the piano because you have to like, in the beat, let go of buttons, press the buttons, and it's like, it's a very natural flow of gameplay in my opinion. Here, more puzzles that we have just literally memorized. we don't need to try around, we know where the correct buttons are. And then comes a very precise enemy skip and... got it, okay. There is one more, probably the most precise enemy skip in the entire game is still coming up in Forest. But first of all, another puzzle. Thankfully these buttons make sounds, so we can again orient ourselves. And as I said, I just want to emphasize this. All the movement is beat counted. Like, it looks normal that I move around like this, but you cannot hear any feedback of footsteps or anything. So it is very, very crazy to move around like this. And yeah, I just wanted to emphasize this. This was a boss, but we just spared him in 2 turns. It's a very easy boss. Here, you can actually get a backup item called the cake. Here is the big enemy skip though. You see these guys, they are in a cycle and it's very precise to get through here. Like visual runners fail this all the time from what I heard. But about the backup cake item. So there is an item that you can get that heals your party to full health, the entire party, which is very, very important for the last boss. I optimized this run so much that the time loss of getting this item though is not worth it anymore. We just go to the last boss, we play 30 minutes to the end, and then we hope for good RNG that we don't die at this point, because it's just so optimized. We usually would always take the cake though, because it will make the boss much easier. Because the hardest part of this run is the very end boss. Here, very cool strat, this bird is shooting stars, right? And if you just hold right from entering this stage, he will not hit you. It's a very easy strat. Then we move on into the invisible maze. Now here's a hidden switch, and then starts a sequence called the maze, where like in a normal playthrough you would not know where to go, but we can of course learn it by heart. But it's still very precise, and there are enemy skips, and it's very fast and very hard. So you just look at this, like the movement is so clean, it goes through all these enemies, skipping them, skipping all these damage sources that are here. And even here the text box we can for example not hear, so we have to just count all the way and anticipate when the text will pop up, mash a bit to confirm that it's gone, and then proceed. So this entire thing is really counted, it's really crazy. So here we went through the maze perfectly, and now comes a pretty tricky boss. Like not so tricky, but it is, I think, possible to die at least. With other bosses it's kind of hard to die. This one is the first one where you can actually die if you mess up. We fight Lancer and Susie because in the story, like they betrayed. The story is very good in this game, by the way. I am just right now focusing on the speedrunning aspect. If you want to learn more about the story, definitely check out some videos about that. That's very interesting too. So what we're gonna do is again beat them with act. We need to first sing to Susie twice, what we have done now, so she's asleep. And then we need to act on Lancer 3 times, I believe, and then the fight is over. But all of their attacks are random, unfortunately. We cannot really anticipate any damage income. So that was a pretty good fight, we only got a few hits. And now comes a pretty long mashing cutscene sequence. But that gives me enough time to explain the next section, because the next section is the most random part, unfortunately, in the entire run, and very, very difficult to execute. So, while they walk here and talk, I can explain it already. There will be kind of the same layout of stage like we see right now, like a path to the right, but there will be, just like in the very beginning where the spades fell from the sky and damaged us, there will be a similar section. There will be damage sources flying from the sky, and we can do nothing to dodge them because they are 100% random. But we need to walk quite a bit this time, and this time it is very easy to die. I think we are allowed to get hit 7 times total. And yeah, you always get hit like 6 times or something. It's very, very barely possible that this is doable blindfolded at all. And that is not all, because after this random section here, you will see it right now, there comes another section with even more shootables from the sky. So you can see there are these things coming from all the sides. We just hold it right and bless that we don't get hit. This is very good. Oh my god, I am not getting hit a single time. The one hit, as I said, 7 times we can get hit. This was 1, this was perfect. And now here we take intentionally like 3 or 4 hits, because this is also completely random. As you can see, I got hit only once and I just barely survived with 6 HP. This is like so close. It is incredibly close and random. Thankfully, there is a save point right before that, so even if you die, you can retry. The unfortunate part is that you have to rewatch this entire cutscene always with mashing the text and walking to the right. Anyways, now we are in prison, which is kind of the calm before the storm. There's not much going on in prison, we just have to talk to a few characters, solve another puzzle via text box this time, so we need to, again, we mash, we can't hear text boxes, so we need to anticipate when the text is proceeded far enough, then input the options and continue mashing. It's very crazy that there is no auditory feedback for text boxes in this game. Makes it quite scary. especially if you get lost. Like sometimes you are lost and you just cannot hear anything. Yeah, it's something, this game. Anyways, the next what we should talk about is the next section, which is the castle, which is already the end of the run basically. Castle is difficult. Castle is definitely the hardest part of the entire run. Not only contains it many difficult bosses and the end boss, which is the hardest part of the run, but it also contains extremely precise movement, as well as, okay, I said this for like every enemy skip, but actually the hardest enemy skip ever. And I routed some pretty cool setups for that, but maybe let's talk a bit about the story here, because why is Susie now fighting Lancer? So, this is kind of a scripted autoscroller, you just need to mash through this. That's what I said with Calm Before the Storm. Story-wise, honestly, I have not played the game with story in a very long time, so I can't tell you much about it. But in this particular section, I know that Lancer, like, threw the crew into prison because he wanted to protect them from the king. And if they are in prison, they cannot, like, go to the king and beat him. But our crew is like, no, like, why are you stopping us from doing our mission and stuff? And then Susie gets angry when she breaks out. That's why she's fighting Lancer now. And it's very emotional because, as you can see, Lancer is not even trying to hurt Susie. Like, we don't need to dodge because yeah, Lancer's attacks are like, you know, it's like the, oh, I don't want to hurt you, I'm actually doing this for you and not for the king. And while our team thinks like, yeah, he's doing it for the king. But the last hit misses from Susie, she spared him and she cannot do it. Happy end. No, really, the story is great. I highly recommend playing this game if you're interested in like very unconventional RPGs and stories. Toby Fox is a genius at writing those. I mean, Undertale was a success for no reason. But that was the prison, Calm Before the Storm, and now we go straight into action, into the castle. There's one last elevator that we need to ride, and then we are full on action. I always really like this elevator cutscene because it really feels like you're approaching the end. The characters are like tired, you are tired, the speedrun is exhausting, and you are just like gathering your last strength. It's I don't know, it fits. Really cool implementation of this elevator. I like it. Good game design. So, let's talk about the hardest enemy skip in the run. There are multiple versions in the visual speedrun to skip this enemy that's coming up, but in Blindfolded, all of these are like way too crazy. It's like not frame perfect, but it's very precise. But I came up with an own setup here, where I reload the room from the bottom, like this enemy right here. It's like right in the middle, right? So I go down, reload the area, beat count to a very specific point, and lock him exactly there at the corner. It's super tight to make this, but very cool that I made it in this run, that I could show this off. Then all of these damage sources here are also beat counted in particular cycles. Hardest boss of the run now incoming. This guy, oh my god, whenever I see him I get scared. And a box, and he's dead. No, but all the movement here is perfectly mapped out and beat counted, as you can see. I have to dodge these because they would kill me if I hit too many of them. So we get a chest here with a healing item, wait for the cycle, go further up. This is all very precisely counted. Now this enemy we cannot skip in Blindfolded. In Visual you can, but it's literally frame perfect. So what we're gonna do is spare 2 of them and kill the last one with attacks. But as you can see, they do a lot of damage, 34. And Chris is dead. So here's the thing with fight mechanics. This is good to explain also for the last boss fight. You cannot hear in this game who dies. So you can hear if someone dies, but you cannot tell who did die. And this is very important for the last boss to know. Because in the last boss, oh, here we got a crit, very good. In the last boss works in such a way that we need to survive 12 turns. We cannot kill the last boss, we are way too weak for that. But if we survive 12 turns, basically the boss spares us. And here you can see I just barely survived. Chris also gets revived. After a certain amount of turns pass, the characters will get revived. I will talk more about the boss when we actually get there. First of all, there is more very precise movement, dodging all these damage sources here on the screen. And that was very perfect. And you might have guessed it, the hardest boss is back. Will he spawn another box? Oh my god, he did. What will we do? And we defeat him. And this guy is kind of a meme. Now we basically approaching the end of castle already. We go through these stairs and then we will do a big shopping sequence. Because there is a shop here and you can actually buy like upgrades, like a different sword and different healing items. I buy 2 healing items and defensive items because, as I said, we don't want to really fight, we want to survive 12 turns. So I bought like many equipment that I will put on everyone here to make them more survivable, a tiny bit at least. It doesn't help much, but it helps like in some certain circumstances, and equip them all, as well as these 2 single heal items. Now a quick different boss still before the end boss. This is the pre to last boss. Right after this comes the end boss already. It's the one guy we saw already, and it's very similar in fight, but with one gimmick. We have to snipe the crown with like this shooting minigame. And as you can see, I hit the crown perfectly. This is very difficult, but what many people don't know is that you can, wow, who would have guessed it, beat count this. So while visual players struggle with this because it's very hard to use the visual cue in this game, it is very easy to just use the audio. As you can see, I sniped him 3 times perfectly. I have seen visual players mess this up, so I'm always like, I feel like I found the secret to this fight. Just beat count. Beat count is strong. And now we approach the very last boss. This right here is the last save of the game. Everything that we mess up from now on will respawn from here. And let me talk about the boss. So, the boss, as I said, 12 turns we need to survive. We don't know if anyone dies, we don't know who dies. We have 1 group healing items, or 2 if we would take the cake. And we have 2 healing items for single party members. The problem is, as I said, we don't know who gets damaged, so the single healing items we just throw randomly at characters after a certain amount of damage. This entire fight is mathematically counted out in a way that I know when to do what. We have 3 different scenarios here. The boss always does the same attacks in the same order. So for example, in the first round we always defend because it's random. We cannot do anything. We just take the hits. We know we got hit twice, that's pretty okay. Then, second turn, we act with Chris and defend with Susie. This attack we can actually dodge. This is the only attack we can actually 100% dodge with the box that he carries around. Then full defend again. These, I call them lances, but you can call them however you want. So you can see we most of the times defend because all these attacks do a lot of damage. And here this box is actually pretty funny because if you don't move, you take guaranteed 3 hits. If you move, you can take 4 to 5 hits, so it's better to not move. Here I healed the first time with a party heal because now comes the key part of this game. This attack again we can dodge. Ralsei has a healing attack. Ralsei can heal the entire party, but for that, Ralsei needs to be alive. And Chris also needs to be alive. That means, as soon as someone dies that is not Susie, we cannot heal anymore. That's why it's very important that we heal whenever we can, even if we have full health. We try to heal with Ralsei. But, now the problem is, if you heal with Ralsei, both Chris and Ralsei cannot defend, so they get more damage during the attacks. So you want to heal all the time during attacks that don't do much damage, and then hope that you don't get hit much, and defend for attacks that do damage, like this box there. You can see Chris died, I cannot heal anymore. I lost the ability to heal now because I know someone is dead and I don't know who. That's why I, with now the second character and the third character, I just throw the single healing items that we have. And like with this, we basically have a full health party. I threw the team healing item and 1 single item on Chris. because that was the one attack I knew I don't need to defend because I can dodge it 100% consistently. Now, we are already approaching the end. I think this is turn number 10 already. We don't have any more healing items. We just need to survive now. So at the very end, we just heal one more time. There's, I think, yeah, one more lances here. The lances are pretty easy to dodge. That's why I sometimes tend to heal here instead of defend. If you heal 3 characters, it's more worth than defending with all 3. This box you need to defend. If you don't defend in this box, like, the run is dead, 100%. So it's a very big combination of knowing what attack is coming up, when to heal, when to defend, when to throw items, etc. It's a very tactical fight that is completely mathematically calculated in terms of damage. I spent lots of time routing this, and this is the last attack. This was a beautiful fight, honestly, without the cake backup item. And that is the last boss fight. We basically have beaten the game.
Oh, so close to subject.
So, now the game is not over yet. We still have some cutscenes to watch and some movement to do, because the timer ends as soon as we go back to the bed in the real world, if you want. But first there's like cutscenes, we actually spare the king and Lala and story, you know. What is important and what I still want to talk about is it can happen that you still mess up the movement. I will not deny that it did not happen to me on PB pace. It is the most frustrating thing ever, but you can actually still mess up the movement, and as I said, the last save point is before this fight. So it kind of can happen that you have to redo the last boss fight, even if you make it perfectly through it. But it is extremely unlikely, especially since this, from now on, it's only skill-based. It is beat-counted movement that you do now, so there's no RNG whatsoever involved. If you play well, you do play well, but if you're, for example, nervous and you mess up, then it can get really bad. That's why it's very important to have lots of practice in this game. And I have done so many runs of this. I've ran Deltarune at multiple marathons at this point, and especially for RTA in Japan, when I was in person in Japan there and showcased this blindfolded speedrun, I practiced every day for so long time. This is probably one of the blindfolded runs I have the most attempts in, just because I grinded it so hard, and that's why it's also so optimized at this point. Like, you can see all this movement, all the fights, it was all very flawless in this run. It comes from the months and months of just sheer grinding of this game. I really spent a lot of effort and time into this, and I'm honestly very, very happy with my results in this game. My PBs are very, very good. They are within like a few seconds of sum of best at this point. I think like within 1 minute of sum of best, every single category of Deltarune blindfolded is for me right now, which is crazy. So now let's go back to the game a bit. We are back in the real world. We awake at the school. There's like lots of things in this run that you don't really see because we skip the beginning part in this real world where you watch the cutscenes, but as I said, it's just cutscenes, so everyone just in the speedrun community runs New Game Plus. It's very funny, because if you say New Game Plus, you would assume in an RPG that you have like unlimited items, you have all this strength, or like level 99. But in Deltarune, it doesn't mean that. In Deltarune, New Game Plus does nothing. You literally start level 1, you have no items, with the one exception that you can skip the initial cutscene. That's what New Game Plus means. And here is the movement I said that you can mess up. So as you can see, I'm walking here through the city, and if you get lost in the city, it's very bad. You don't want to get lost here. And this is our house. We now just need to get upstairs and lay in bed and be done with it. Last room, go to the bed, talk to the bed, and GG, well played. 34:04. It is still currently the world record at this time and moment. Yeah, very, very optimized and cool run in my opinion. I would really love to show this off at some more marathons. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope my commentary was understandable. It wasn't too fast. This game is very fast-paced, so there's lots of information to take on, but I think it also makes it a fun watch because of that. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I hope I see you around soon too. Bye bye.
And it was very stressful.
Hey, if you liked this video, please go ahead and check out my Patreon page. I have many cool perks there and it would support me in making more blindfolded speedruns in the future. This video is sponsored by Benlitz, Farrell, Boris, Funkylicious, ZXMany, VR4300 and Kevin. Thank you all so much.